All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we talk about the under the radar 49ers and who is on that list. We'll discuss it coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And this video is sponsored by LearnKey's Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. Whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or another high-demand field, they offer over 30 certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. With flexible online learning and industry-recognized certifications, you can build the skills employers are looking for, all with the support of a U.S.-based student assistance program. So don't wait to invest in your future. Click the link in the description of this video and visit upskill.learnkey.com to start today. And thanks to our sponsors for sponsoring the Krug Show. Interesting article out right now on Niners Nation from senior writer Kyle Posey, and he's asking who is the most underrated player on the 49ers roster. And he says after last season, it's Jauan Jennings. Jauan Jennings is the most underrated 49er. And Jauan Jennings was a huge player last year. He had one fewer target in 2024 than he had combined in the previous 3 seasons. And he had produced career highs across the board. 25 yards short of 1,000 yards receiving because he got ejected in the Arizona game. And his career high before that was 416 yards. So he had almost 1,000 yards, which blew his previous record out of the water. Jennings also had 6 touchdowns. He was very consistent. He averaged 65 receiving yards per game, which was more than triple what he averaged in 2023. So PFF named him the most underrated player on the 49er roster. So if you think about it, I mean, this team had Ayuk, Debo, Pearsall, first-round pick, Kittle, CMC, all these weapons, and yet Jennings established himself as the top option on offense. He was ranked in the top 20 in PFF as far as receiving grade at 83.7, receptions with 77, yards per route run at 2.26 in the regular season. So this guy's a former 7th-round pick, and I'm sure he's going to have another good year this year. So this is great for him. I mean, this is absolutely great. And if he can have another great year, he's going to get paid. If he has another great, fantastic year, his contract voids after the 2025 season. So I don't know if the Niners are going to lean on him down the road. We're going to find out. But man, if he performs in 2025 the way he performed in 2024, he's going to be making a lot of money. And whether it's in free agency or the Niners get him to sign an extension, Jauan Jennings is going to make a lot more money if he can just put together one more year. So I kind of would agree. If you said who is the most underrated player on the 49ers roster, I think Jauan Jennings is probably it. He is probably the most underrated player on the roster. If you said, who is the second most underrated player? I think a lot of people would really bristle at this because he doesn't have a great reputation among the fans. But Colton McKivitz is in the final year of his deal. Watch Colton McKivitz get a very handsome-looking contract from somebody, if not the 49ers, after the 2025 season. I think he's viewed outside the Niners sphere and outside their fan base as maybe a better player. I bet you pro personnel directors have a better rating or ranking on Colton McKivitz than most average 49er fans would have on Colton McKivitz. So I'd probably say he's probably if you said who's also an underrated player, it's probably him. I think he's probably underrated in the grand scheme of things. If there was another, it's hard to say. But what I wanted to say, the video I wanted to do today was not underrated players because it's all based on some some, rating, and we could debate forever the premise of where they're rated versus not rated and so on and so forth. But I thought it was interesting, the concept of under the radar. Like who are some good players on the 49ers that, like Jauan Jennings coming into last year, are in that kind of under the radar. Like we're not really talking about them. We know they're there, but we're not really talking about them, and they potentially could establish themselves this year and do some good things. All right, let's go through it, because it's not an endless list, but there are a handful of guys on this list. They're on the team. They're there, but they're a little bit kind of hanging out under the radar, and nobody's really talking about them. And it seems like all rosters have a few guys like that. And let's go through that list for the 49ers. On offense, there's a lot of talk about Ricky Pearsall, a lot of talk about Jauan Jennings in his final year, a lot of talk about Ayuk, a lot of talk about the guys they just added, Jordan Watkins and Junior Bergen. A lot of talk about the big free agent, veteran receiver they signed, Demarcus Robinson. A lot of buzz about, Junior Bergen wants to go to the Hall of Fame as a return guy. Isaiah Nayer is one of the freaky, undrafted free agent body types at wide receiver. 6'4", 220, 4.4 speed, 35-inch arms, 40-inch vertical. Are you kidding me? All on one player? That's Isaiah Nayer. But if you said, who's kind of under the radar, I would say two guys to look for under the radar. One is Terrell Owens' kid, who's clearly getting better. Okay? Tariq Owens is clearly getting better. He's under the radar. We don't know what he's going to do. He does not have a roster spot. There is no plan for what he's going to do. He's a super raw yet super athletic receiver who has the greatest bloodlines maybe ever in Terrell Owens. And he clearly has a desire to have a pro career, and he's getting better. And he made a nice leaping catch at the rookie minicamp last week. So I'm going to say Tariq Owens, flying beneath the radar with the potential to maybe impact this situation. Another receiver that also belongs in that under the radar list is Isaiah Hodgins. Isaiah Hodgins is a big receiver. We're talking about 6'3", 6'4", 200-pound receiver. He's played in the NFL, has NFL experience, can high point the ball. He's only 26. He's not super explosive, but he is a big possession receiver with very good hands. So I like that one. Isaiah Hodgins he's definitely a good football player who's flying beneath the radar. People are talking about every other receiver before they're talking about guys like Tariq Owens and Isaiah Hodgins. So good players flying beneath the radar. Let's move to the offensive line. I'll tell you, Andre Dillard, I think, belongs on this list as a good player who's flying beneath the radar. Guy was really raw coming out of Washington State. Then went to a good team, wasn't ready to play, like many offensive linemen are not. And so unlike a lot of teams that just say, well, we'll just suck and we'll just let our guys fail. Philly wasn't like that. Philly's like, hey, we'll put somebody else in there and we'll let this guy sit on the bench. Who cares? We care about winning. So they didn't develop him. Then he went to Green Bay, and I think he developed a little bit there. Now the Niners get him, and I think it's a very similar pickup to Laken Tomlinson. Andre Dillard's a good guy. He's 6'5", he's 315 pounds. He is fast. He is an offensive tackle with speed. He's not old. He's 29 years old. He was a late bloomer. He hasn't had a ton of injuries. He doesn't have a lot of his body's not beat up. He doesn't have a bunch of war scars from playing in the league over and over again, years and years. He doesn't have that. Flying beneath the radar with the ability to potentially start as a swing tackle. I think Andre Dillard is under the radar. Under the radar, good player for sure. Andre Dillard. No, and nobody would think anything of it, but this is why the Niners kind of don't believe in drafting offensive linemen. Matt Mayoko and I discussed this. there's a belief, and the Niners share this belief, that if you draft offensive linemen early, you're forced to play them because you drafted them early. And then they don't play well early, and then you're drafting early again. And then you see the cycle and how it can repeat. You draft O-linemen early, you don't win, they don't play well. That's why you don't win, because it's a technique-rich position. You're throwing raw offensive linemen onto the field. Your offense is not producing. Your O-linemen are not grading out highly. You're winning 4 or 5 games. Coaches are getting fired. You're winding up at the top of the draft, and you're always needing more offensive linemen. And this is like this recurring deal. The Niners don't believe in that. They believe in drafting offensive linemen where there's value, where there's athletes, getting guys like an Andre Dillard on the fly, getting a guy like a Nicholas Petit Frere, veterans, guys who came into the league a few years ago. But Dillard is kind of like Laken Tomlinson, big, strong athlete who came into the league as a first-round pick. It didn't work out, went to another spot after he learned how to play, and now Laken Tomlinson's made a lot of money. And I think Andre Dillard was a really nice little pickup for the 49ers. So Andre Dillard, for sure, under the radar. Who else is under the radar? I'm going to give you one. Mason Pline. Second-year tight end. Undrafted free agent last year out of Furman. Played basketball at Ferris State. Legit 6'6", 6'7", in that range, maybe even taller, maybe more close like 6'8". They list him here at 6'6". I think he's more like 6'8". 260, 265, big body, only 25. Mechanical engineering major in college. Smart. An above-the-rim basketball player. The Niners signed him, and they gave him a true redshirt year. They didn't even think about putting him on the field. They were never tempted to put him on the field because they're trying to build up his strength, build up his knowledge, build up his confidence, and watch them unleash this kid this summer. He is on the team. Nobody's talked about him. You're talking about Kittle. You're talking about Luke Farrell. You're talking about re-signing Ross Dwelly. Tongas went to Cal. I mean, everybody's higher profile at tight end than Mason Pline. And yet this kid's smart. He's got athleticism. He's got size. He's got hands. And I think he can potentially be now he knows the offense. He's gotten a year in the weight room. I think Mason Pline is going to benefit dramatically from his redshirt year. And I think he's going to win a roster spot. He's flying beneath the radar. No doubt. Another guy flying beneath the radar, Tanner Mordecai. Nobody says anything about Tanner Mordecai. The Niners have Brock Purdy. They signed Mac Jones. They drafted Curtis Rourke, and Tanner Mordecai's just there. But guess what? Tanner Mordecai has got 4.46 speed and maybe the best arm, and he's not small. He's 6'2", 220 pounds, and he's 25 years old, and he knows the offense. He's been in it for a year. Watch Tanner Mordecai ball out this summer. 4.46 speed, the best arm strength of any of the quarterbacks. And he knows the offense now. Watch for Tanner Mordecai to move the team effectively in the preseason. Under the radar, Tanner Mordecai. All right, let's go to running back. A lot of talk about CMC. People love to talk about Garendo. They just drafted Jordan James. Juice, the drama with Juice. Sign him, cut him, re-sign him, whatever. Corey Kiner, nice little undrafted free agent. Talked about him quite a bit. Nobody's talking about Izzy Abanaconda. Izzy Abanaconda is a major, major talent. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's 5'10", 215 to 220 pounds, who runs in the 4.3s. 4.3s. And this is not some workout warrior guy who never did anything. This guy scored 20 touchdowns in a season for the Pitt Panthers in the ACC. He's had some injuries. He's a New Yorker, Brooklyn kid. Niners signed him, kept him off the field. Obviously, he's got to develop as a receiver. He's got to learn the offense. He's only 22. 5'10", 220 pounds, runs in the 4.3s, and he's 22. Izzy Abanaconda, flying beneath the radar. Okay, nobody talks at all about Izzy Abanaconda. Nobody talks at all about any of these guys that I mentioned, by the way. Isaiah Hodgins, Andre Dillard, Mason Pline, Izzy Abanaconda. No discussion. Tariq Owens. I just gave you 5 under-the-radar good players on the Niners that nobody talks about at all. And nobody's banking on at all. All right, let's move to the defense. Who's an under-the-radar player on defense? Sam Aquinu. Sam Aquinu. Definitely under the radar. Now, he might be a little bit over the radar now that he had that year, but they signed him 2 years ago in December at the end of the year. I'll give you an under-the-radar duo on the defensive line, Teron Jackson and Sebastian Valdez. Both these guys are literally running with the 4s. I mean, if your 1s are Williams, Givens, Elliott, and Bosa, your 2s are Yatir Gross-Matos, West, Collins, and Aquinu. Your 3s are Barrett, Kalia Davis, Evan Anderson, and Robert Beal. Then your 4s would be Jonathan Garvin, Teron Jackson, and Sebastian Valdez. Let's talk about Teron Jackson. Really good edge rusher at Coastal Carolina. Super athletic. Has put on a few pounds now. He came out at about 6'2", 250. I think he's now probably 6'2", 260 and change. But this guy can rush the passer, and he's only 26. And Teron Jackson this year is going to be for the Niners what Sam Aquinu was last year. The year prior, the Niners had signed Aquinu in December, and they dusted him off in training camp the next year. Well, guess what? They did the exact same thing this year or last December with Teron Jackson. Out of nowhere, here's Teron Jackson, and it's all about, hey, we'll see you in training camp. Now this guy knows the system. He's been in the Niner building for months. He knows Chris. He knows the scheme. The guy can rush the passer. He's athletic as hell. Teron Jackson, under the radar. Another guy that's under the radar is this Sebastian Valdez, who's 6'4", 300 pounds, defensive lineman from Washington. There's a lot to like about him as a guy who's a multi-position guy. He's 300 pounds. He can play inside. He can play outside. I saw Sebastian Valdez play defensive end. At 300 pounds, he's got some moves. He actually does. He's got a nice little swim move. He's got the grip and rip move. He's enormously strong. 34 reps of 225. The most of anybody in the draft class this year was Sebastian Valdez. And you can see that power on film. So you got Teron Jackson under the radar. Sebastian Valdez under the radar. Good players. Let's move to linebacker. I don't know if there's an under-the-radar linebacker. There's Nick Martin and Fred Warner and Dee Winters. There's Luke Gifford, Jalen Graham, Deshaun White, Curtis Robinson. I guess if I had to say under-the-radar linebacker, I'd probably say Tatum Bethune. Why? Because I really believe that Tatum Bethune wants to have an NFL career. He's a really good tackler on first and second down. He needs to work on his speed and athleticism. And if he could get with NFL nutrition, weightlifting training, if he spent the offseason getting faster and more knowledgeable, he may, transition from backup special teamer to starting caliber player. He's a thumper, and he can really, really hit. We're talking about 5'11", 230, and he's only 24. I love his natural instincts for the position. Nobody's talking about Tatum Bethune. All he did at Tallahassee was make tackle after tackle after tackle after tackle. Now, he was borderline NFL athlete, and the Niners drafted him in the 7th round. He's 5'11", 230, but if he could get that 5'11", 230 maybe down to 5'11", 225, but he's in awesome shape and moving a step and a half faster than a year ago, with his knowledge of this defense, that probably is enough to take him from backup linebacker special teamer to potential starter, really good player. So I love Tatum Bethune. I love his talent. And I love his upside if he can work on his body and really get in shape, work on his knowledge of the defense, pick up a step and a half. If he can pick up just a little bit of speed, and Stone Blanton and him are right next to each other. Two really good linebackers, really good instincts. They just don't quite have the explosive speed. They could somehow regain a little bit of a step with, I don't know how they're going to do it. Losing weight, jumping rope, working on agility, flowing, watching more film so you're flowing in the right direction. But to me, Stone Blanton and Tatum Bethune, definitely beneath the radar, good linebackers. If they can just come up with a half step of more speed, they could really be tremendous players. And then my last under the radar player, I'll go the last two. One is Darrell Luter Jr. Darrell Luter Jr. is in a lot of ways the physical prototype of what you're looking for in a corner. He's 6 feet tall. He's 190. He's got long arms, got long legs, super dominant physically, very fast, very physically dominant. He's only 25. This guy played a lot of press man at South Alabama, and I really think that he could be he's definitely an under the radar player at this point. He's been here. People know his name, but we haven't seen it. And I think that it's all there. The talent is there for that kid to step up and really make a name for himself. There's a lot of talent there. Under the radar for sure, but a lot of talent. And then I'll give you one more under the radar player. And this is a guy they just signed, and it's Jason Pinnock from the New York Giants. And I love this player going back to Pittsburgh. At Pittsburgh, he was a super aggressive corner who was better in zone than man. He's 6 feet, 205. So he's now moved to safety, but he's got the experience of having played corner. And he's very tough, very aggressive, very smart, and very physical. And this was a great addition. And this kid's only 25 years old. This was a great, great addition. He's played with the Jets, he's played with the Giants, and now he's with the Niners. Jason Pinnock is a player, man. He was a player. He was a damn good corner who was just a step slow, but he's just big enough and strong enough to be able to transition to be a safety. And as a safety, he is a really good football player. Really good football player. And nobody's talking about him. I mean, think about it. They're talking about Malik Mustafa and the injury. Can Jair Brown bounce back? Is Renardo Green really that special? And Demo got paid, and they drafted Upton Stout, and they drafted Marquise Siegel, and it's like they signed Saron Neal as a veteran, and a lot of these guys are definitely beneath the radar type players. When you look at a guy like Pinnock, I mean, he definitely is in that beneath the radar. They didn't give him a ton of money, and yet without Malik Mustafa, this guy could be your starter at free safety, and he could wind up being a very, very valuable player for you in your sub packages. I think that's a great addition. I think that is an absolute great addition. So once again, to recap our under the radars, Darrell Luter Jr., corner, under the radar. Jason Pinnock, corner / safety, definitely under the radar. Tatum Bethune and Stone Blanton, two linebackers, because of their instincts and their ability to play the position. If they have enough speed, those guys under the radar. Teron Jackson and Sebastian Valdez, under the radar 49ers, who have a ton of talent. Izzy Abanaconda. Nobody's talking about Izzy. It's unbelievable he's under the radar. Mason Pline, under the radar. Andre Dillard. Nobody's talking about Andre Dillard. And the last under the radar players, we should say, Tariq Owens and Isaiah Hodgins. Some good talent right there. And none of those guys are really being leaned on. Maybe you could argue Pinnock, but for the most part, most of those guys are not being leaned on to be necessarily starters, but they have potential to do exactly that. under the radar 49ers. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to LearnKey Upskill Academy for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all you guys. Hit like and subscribe on your way out. And thanks to you all for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.